Welcome to Real Estate Success Partner. We're your hosts, Devin Dubuque,
David Wynn.
and we're here to talk about how to have great success in any market. Today, we've got a really awesome guest straight from Northern Oregon, all the way down here to Dallas-Fort Worth with all of our heat and congested traffic. Ginger Bell, published author, bestseller, Telly Award-winning. Ginger, you've done it all. Welcome to the show. We're so excited to have you here.
Awesome. Thank you. I'm excited to be here with you guys.
Yes, finally.
Guesting on your podcast.
The moment has arrived. It's good stuff. It's good stuff. So, Ginger, like I said, from Northern Oregon, and you're down here in the Dallas area. What do you got going on? What are you doing down here?
Well, I love coming to Dallas. First of all, the food is amazing.
It is.
And I'm in Dallas because I'm actually meeting with some clients to helping create some marketing strategies, training strategies.
That's right.
And then I'm doing some workshops here too for real estate agents on how to do video and podcasting and all the things that you guys are doing. Yeah.
Well, and you've helped us with the podcast, right? Yep. You know, you own EDU marketing.
Yep.
You provide education and you teach people how to create these really cool podcasts and do this type of stuff, right? Mm-hmm. That's it. And that's kind of how you and I met.
Yes.
You know, as everybody knows, and I'm wearing the hat today, I'm a Freedom Club member with the Mortgage Marketing Animal. I need to rephrase that. Carl White's Mortgage Marketing Animals, right? And David and I actually were attending an event in Nashville, Tennessee this year. Mm-hmm. And they said, hey, you know what you guys need to do? You need to start a podcast. Mm-hmm. David and I looked at each other and we said, we're doing that on Friday. Right?
Nice.
We did. So David and I shoot this podcast and we go, well, now what do we do with it? But we had your name and your number.
And
I had Jennifer. By the way, I got to give some props to Jennifer. She's my office manager. She's absolutely outstanding.
She's amazing,
so
yes.
Thank you, Jennifer, for everything that you do. So she connects the dots. She gets us on a call.
Yep.
And here we are today.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
I absolutely love it.
So, and with that, first of all, the whole thing, whenever you have an idea like that and it's an aha moment, and you guys had that, right?
We did.
The aha moment. And instead of waiting, because a lot of people do this, like, that's a really good idea. I think I'll do that. You acted on it.
You have to take
And
action.
so it's probably one of the first things when you have that aha moment is take action.
Yeah.
Act on it.
I love
Even
it.
if you don't know all the pieces that are going to go to, and you didn't.
No,
I mean,
no clue.
You called me, and my background is in education and marketing. My company, Edu Marketing, I've been in the mortgage and real estate space for over 20 years. I'm a content producer. I have honestly written training on every single mortgage program, mortgage regulation out there. And I am the person that likes to fill in those dots.
Yeah.
So it's like, you know, no matter what that is, when my clients come to me, it's like, we want to do this. It's like, okay, let's fill in the dots.
That's right.
And let's figure out what that looks like. So you called me and you'd already done it. It's like, oh,
Yeah, we
take
shot
action.
it.
You already shot it. It's
We
like,
got it.
We shot our first podcast. Now what?
Yeah. What do we do with it? Where's it go?
It's like,
right?
okay, well, let's put all
Yeah.
the pieces together. And we do. That's one of the services we offer. We do video production and we do some podcast production for our clients.
Right.
And so we got into doing that. You were very smart in putting your podcast together because you already had a name.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the things when you know, you're putting a plan together and a strategy. And honestly, whether you're a real estate agent, whether you're a loan originator, when you are putting a plan together for marketing yourself, branding, being that influencer, having that brand and that name is very important because it helps people to remember.
It does. It does. And also having the vision as to where you want to take that podcast, right? That's super important. But at the end of the day, if you don't have the vision, that's also something Ginger can help you out with. You provide a number of topics that we can communicate about, as well as questions. Now, we don't always do that. David and I are very off script, right?
You guys are great at asking questions, though,
Yeah,
you know? And
yeah.
I mean, one of the things, and you and I talked about this,
Yes, ma'am.
is, you know, ask questions. So if you're starting a podcast, or even if you're just doing a video,
Right.
I mean, you're shooting one video, you're sitting down with someone else, and you're having a conversation, ask a question that's going to provide content that the listener wants to hear.
Ooh, that's a good one.
You know, we do a lot of video coaching because we do a lot of video production, and people always say, "What should I do a video about?" It's like, answer specific questions. And you think about the questions. You know, it's like you did the podcast recently, and you said, "Okay, to the real estate agent, you're very successful. Why?
Yeah.
What are you doing?"
How'd you do that?
You know, how did you do that?
Yeah.
Sometimes I think we get so caught up in our head that
We
we
overthink
have
it.
to, we overthink it.
Yeah, we're
And it
not
gets
Bob. A little out of reference there, but Bob just does it because that's the way to do it, and he doesn't think about it. He just does the action
Yeah.
and finds success, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
and consistent. Sometimes it's going to work, sometimes it isn't. So I
Absolutely.
think answering those specific questions is important. And part of being a very good podcast host is knowing how to, number one, ask those questions.
Right.
And then number two, listen.
Yeah.
And sometimes, especially for salespeople, we forget that.
Right.
Because we're always, I have a friend who is a trainer, and he always says, we're always either loading or reloading. You're either talking or you're thinking about what you're going to say next. And so many times when you're doing, especially like a podcast, listening to what someone is saying, then you're going to be able to take what they're saying and expand on it.
That's right, 100%. I was listening to somebody not that long ago, and he was talking about how a lot of times people are looking for, well, what do I post on social media, or what do I do a podcast about? And they said, what we normally think is we want to make this billboard. Hey, we can offer this great incentive, or we have this great thing that we're bringing to the market, right? But guess what? That's what everybody's doing. And more importantly, when you're on your social media sources, you're not looking for billboards, right? You're not there to look for a billboard. You're there to communicate with your friends and your family and to see what's going on in people's lives. And what he said that made a lot of sense is, as originators or agents or whomever, we forget what people really want to know is the information that we have, the conversations that we have every single day, right? We're out there educating people, and the questions, believe it or not, that come up are almost always the same questions, right? So if we pinpoint on the hot topics, what people are actually talking about, and we utilize that as our content. Hey, I hear people talking a lot about this. Let me explain to you what is really going on here. That's the stuff that people want to consume, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at and looking at other people as far as questions is important. You can go to groups, you can see questions. Honestly, you can go to your email box
Yeah, that's right.
and see the questions that are in there. One of the things too, though, don't be afraid to be unique.
Yeah.
Because social media, we all watch it, and then we see somebody, and it's like, oh, I really like what they're doing. Well, that's cool. They're doing it. You don't have to do the same things. Doing
right.
something different is sometimes a good direction to go in. And you started doing your motivational moments.
I did.
And you're calling it, so what are you calling it?
That's our midweek motivation.
Okay.
But we've also we're gonna coin these things mind shook. Right?
I love that.
You shook your mind up.
Branding.
Mind shook, right?
So, and you look at that, and I mean, if you look at, so if you start off with, and let's just walk through this, because I think one of the things that I do is, it's like you have an idea, mind shook. Okay, so let's put all the pieces together. Let's draw those dots in place. And that came out of you creating these motivational moments, which, by the way, are amazing. You're really good at it.
Thank you.
And we don't have a lot of that. I mean, you think about in the mortgage and real estate space, what do we need right now? Motivation. What are we not seeing? Motivation. It's like, okay.
What should we be talking about?
Maybe this is a good thing to talk about.
Motivation.
Okay. So you come up with that, and the other thing is it's branding you, and
right.
and you need to brand yourself. You guys do your podcast together. It's great. But you have your own branding that you do. You have your own branding
do.
that you do.
That's
You have the
right.
company you work for. And so you want to focus on you, the brand of you.
That's right.
So I call it Me Incorporated.
Yeah.
So you start with that. So you come up with the even just one thing. So the motivational moments. And then you come up with the name. So how did you come up with the idea of the name?
Oh, that's a good one. So, as you know, I've got a videographer that helps us shoot these things and
Yes.
edit these things here locally. And, he and I shot the most recent one, and we got done. We're like, wow, that was actually really good, And we were kind of coming up with what should we call it? We need to call it something. We need a calling card.
Right.
So when people watch that video, they know what they're watching, right? Again, like you said, branded, okay? And so I was tossing some ideas at him, and he was tossing some ideas at me, and all of a sudden, and the mind kept coming up. Mind, right? Mindset, mind this, mind that. And then he said, a very popular phrase today is shook. And I was like, oh, I like that, right? Because you're shook. You're shook up. When you listen to this motivation, your mind is shook. And that's where it came from, right? That was a collaboration.
Yep.
And, I think it's going to be really cool. We've got some idea for a animated graphic we're going to put behind these
I
things.
love
And
it.
we're going to get Vu out here, David out here doing some motivationals too, man. We want to hear some other voices, right?
All right, I'm in. I'm definitely down.
Yeah, you've already come to me. You've got a couple ideas. I
I got
know.
some
I know you
ideas.
got some stuff up there cooking.
Well, and that's it. And I mean, don't be afraid,
Yeah,
right? Lean
don't.
into it, take the risk, and, at that aha moment, don't wait. Just
Yeah.
act.
Yeah.
Don't wait, just act.
Take action.
So important. Yeah.
That's what the motivations are all about, right?
Right.
It's about taking action because a lot of people hear about something and they go, "Man, I need to do that," right?
Right.
And they talk about, "Man, I'm going to start this. I'm going to start this. I'll do it next week. I'll do it next week," right? No, do it today, right? When we get off of training, David and I, we do sales club training Tuesdays and Thursdays every single week.
Right.
And we'll teach something new. And one of the things I always like to end with is, guys, make sure that as soon as we stop right here, as soon as we get off this phone, go take action on that.
Right.
Take action immediately. Put it into your process. That way it becomes part of what you do, right? And that's the same thing with a podcast or starting something new on social media, right? We started our Mortgage Mondays, where we actually give a little bit of insight as to what's going on in the industry. We do it
Nice.
every single Monday. We just started this a few weeks ago. And again, I think it's great because we took action on it. David came to me and said, "Hey, Devin, there's something I think we're missing. People want to know what's going on in the industry.
Yeah.
Let's throw that out there." That's David's voice. That was all him coming to me and saying, "Hey, we need to do these things." And I said, "You're absolutely correct." But what did we not do? We didn't wait. We literally said, "John, we're shooting a motivational today," and that started Mortgage Mondays. And I think we're about 4 weeks into that.
Then you can shoot them all at once. It's not. You don't have to.
Yeah.
It's like it's Monday. It doesn't mean you have to shoot it, right? So it's honestly, we're
Well, you
recording this
pre-shoot.
on a Friday,
Yeah.
and you could record
Yeah.
right for Monday. So
We
that's
line
a
them
great
up,
thing.
right? Because we've got things going on in our lives.
Exactly.
We've got vacations that we're going to take. We've got business trips that we have to make.
Swimming pools to hop into,
Swimming
'cause it's
pools to
hot
happen.
here. Yeah.
So at the end of the day, we've got to make certain that we've got the podcast or the motivationals lined up
Right.
so that it's consistent. And guys, I think that's an important tip.
Yes.
You can't do it once and put it out there and expect for people to keep coming back.
Or even
They need
twice.
to know.
Or even 3 times.
Or yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It has to be consistent. You've got to do it over and over and over again, and they have to be able to rely on it, right? The same way that they can rely on fill in the blank, right? At the end of the day, you need to know that's happening on Thursdays, right?
Yeah.
Every single Thursday, there's going to be a podcast coming out. Every Monday, there's a Mortgage Monday. The moment that you stop, people stop tuning in,
Yeah.
right?
I get that question a lot. People always, because we do a lot of podcast production, and people say, how often should I do my podcast? Every week.
Yeah.
And then they're like, well, can I do it every other week? And it's like, okay, can you tell me a church that has service every other week?
That's the analogy I was looking for.
No, it's every week, right? And so podcasts should be every week.
That's
and
right.
commit to it. I have a podcast that I honestly stream my live
Right.
every week on Wednesday. And I have co-hosts. We invite guests on. And I did the streaming live to hold myself accountable because
I love
I
that.
get busy. I produce a lot of stuff. I write a lot of content. And it'd be easy for me to say,
You wear a lot of hats.
I'm not going to do it this week.
Yeah.
But by doing it live, now it's like people, and we have people that log on Zoom. We have
Yeah.
people that watch us stream live. Then we take that, we put it onto our regular podcast recording and do all that. I mean, that's the great thing about podcasts.
And what happens if you don't show up? You got a room full of virtual people out there.
And
going,
they're like, where are you?
Where's the show?
And it's funny because Last year, I think it was last year, I turned 60 last year, so for my 60th.
There's no way that's true.
Yeah, it's true.
There's no way.
I live in Oregon. We don't see the sun often.
There it is.
So my husband took me on a
Something
cruise.
in the water in Oregon, guys.
That's where Nike is.
That's it. That's it. Just do it.
So my husband took me on a cruise, and we honestly had no internet. And so I could not be on. We still had the show, and we still had a guest. And I got so many messages from people. It's like, where are you? It's not the same without you. We miss you. And it's like, I'll be back next week. So people do become.
That's it.
They become fans.
They become fans.
So here's the thing. You don't realize, and it's not, what the intention of what you start with.
It's not.
But you can make a difference. You can have an impact. You can be an influencer.
That's right.
By having a podcast. And that's why, I honestly just released books. And so I have an LO podcast system book.
Yes, you do.
Carl White and I wrote the entire,
you do.
It's a guide, it's a planner, it's a technology, it's questions. And then I did the same thing for real estate agents. And so taking everything that we do and putting it into a guidebook, because I am such a firm believer in using this model.
Yeah.
To be able to do whatever. If you're a real estate agent, you start a local podcast. You think about how many you're in Dallas.
We are. Dallas-Fort Worth.
You have so many great things. You got the Cowboys. Okay, Colorado girl, so I may have to differ on that a little bit. I grew up in Denver with the Broncos.
No Broncos.
But
Don't do it.
Dallas will have a year.
Chiefs are okay, but Cowboys for sure.
That's a whole other podcast conversation
I know.
right there.
I know.
But you've got sports here. You've got fast cars, I hear. You've
do.
got great neighborhoods.
Cuisine.
If you're a real estate agent in Dallas and you don't have a podcast, you're missing out.
Well, let's talk about that, because I was going to bring that up too when you mentioned your podcast planner. And guys, again, if you're looking at how to get into this thing and you want a roadmap for the success, you want to check that out. And where can they get that podcast?
So the real estate agent is an agent podcast system, And so it's 2 physical books. We have a guide and a planner, and then we have questions and technology. But it's honestly the entire, if we revealed everything we do. There's no secrets.
Where would we find that?
At agentpodcastsystem.com.
.com. There we go. .com. So I was going to mention this, and you started right into it. So what do people consume their media on today? Is it the television?
No.
It's the phone, right? Or their tablet or their platform.
And that's increasing.
And what happens here, guys, when you start to shoot these social media videos or this podcast and you get yourself out there and you become that local influencer or expert in the industry, people start to see you on these podcasts, and they also see other big people on these podcasts too, right? Carl likes to say Oprah Winfrey, right? They're going to see her out there, right? Or insert major athlete, actor. That's who they're seeing. So when they see you pop up consistently every single week and you're bringing a great message and you're informing them about things that are going on, they start to look at you as the person of expertise in that field.
Right.
And as real estate agent, loan officer, fill in the blank, right? That's exactly what we're looking for. We want people to know that they can trust us, and what we're offering is expertise, right?
It's that alignment,
Yeah.
It's like the very first book I ever wrote was with Brian Tracy. And I did that because I had never written a book. He had. And so it provided that credibility.
That's right.
Second book was with Jack Canfield. Same thing. It's like the reason I did that. So by doing a podcast, and you're not maybe not going to start off with these, amazing guests. Right. That's okay. You get started, and then as you get going, then you can start inviting people. But, it's like you're a real estate agent, say in the Dallas area.
That's right.
You start a podcast. Guess what? I would invite the mayor. I would invite the head of the school district.
Yeah.
I would invite local business owners, right?
Mm-hmm.
I would talk about the community. I would focus on, dog parks. It's like, what are the things, if I was relocating.
That's right.
To Dallas.
And you had to start in a brand new market.
What would I want to know?
That's right. Exactly.
Bringing kids in, whatever that is, that's
Well,
important to
I
do
think
that.
it surprises people is who will come on as a guest, right? You know,
Yeah.
because at the end of the day, you talk about local mayor. We haven't done that yet, right? But maybe a little hard to get here in Dallas, but we've got sub-communities in the DFW.
Yeah, I mean, you have
Yeah.
local, you can talk to your chamber.
That's right.
I mean, honestly, I would invite the chamber on and go through their entire list. I would, talk to, you have, I mean, even if you can't get the mayor, you can get, there's people that sit on the city board
Yeah.
that, you could get on and.
Influential people in your local
He's like ready to make
marketplace.
the phone call. It's like, I've
David's
got
got
the
his
list.
phone out right
He's got
now.
the Rolodex.
I already have it covered, Devin.
Rolodex
I already have it covered.
I know you do. I know you do. So, but that's important, right? Because at the end of the day, as you bring on these important people that are talking about topics that are relevant to your local communities,
Right.
again, who do they see, right? They see the mayor in your community, or they see somebody from the chamber of the community, and they go, "Oh, that's so and so. Who's that?" Now all of a sudden, your name is out there, right? And they're associating you
Right.
with somebody of expertise.
Well, and you should always, like, whenever I do a podcast and I have a guest on, I say, who else should I have on this podcast?
Yeah.
And people always say, hey, you know what? You need to have, John on this podcast.
Yeah.
He would be amazing. And then they start, like, I get this now. In fact, before we came on here, I got an email from a national syndication.
Right.
Wanting to get our podcast, Mortgage Influencers, which, by the way, 3 years running. We've
That's
got
awesome.
listeners.
I gotta
We've
get
got
on
a
there.
group of like 2,500. Well, I sent you an email. So
I
you just
know.
need to respond to that one. Yes.
I'm taking action now, right
I
now,
think
in my
David might
mind.
maybe respond faster. I think John on it too.
Yep.
But it's like that comes from consistency,
That's
right?
right.
And so we just always ask people, who else do you know? Who else should be? Who has information to share? People always have information to share. I mean,
That's
you talk
right.
about local areas, talk to your dentist, talk to your chiropractors,
Yeah.
talk to your pediatrician. I mean, whoever. People are moving here. They want to know if I'm moving here.
Right.
What is the community about? What am I moving into? And if they already live here,
Yeah.
then they can expand upon. I mean, you guys have great shopping. What is the thing I asked you? It's like, hey, where should we go eat?
Yeah, Albernays.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
Or
it.
we're what D Lincoln Prime, right?
Yeah.
So-
Right.
Hey, Ginger, I got a question for you. Our audience are mostly mortgage loan originators and realtors. Real Estate Success Partner is our podcast.
It is.
What do you say to the person that says, I don't like to look at myself on camera, or I don't do
Yeah.
social media, or because there's a lot of people out there. I always say, you're gonna be dead in the water if you don't.
Yeah.
If you don't
You can't
get out of your.
The market's changed.
The market's changed. It's
gotta
not just
out
what do you say?
from under the
what do you say to
rock.
them?
Yeah.
Maybe it's not a podcast. How about just start a Facebook or a Instagram? Or there's people out there that don't have those
Yeah.
in our industry, which
True.
is shocking to me.
Yeah.
I know, it's always surprising to me. So the first thing is, nobody likes how they look.
Yeah.
I mean, I just watched a show with Rob Lowe, and he did it with his son.
Yeah.
And Rob Lowe, still amazing, right? He does not like how he looks
That's wild.
because he sees himself as a character actor,
Mm.
and he doesn't like the fact that he's good looking. He said, "I mean, seriously, I
It's a
listened-
terrible problem to
I
have.
listened to him on a podcast. So you just have to get over yourself. And I don't like how I look on video. When I started doing video years ago, doing classes on video, I would just give them to my videographer and say, you know what, edit them, post them. I don't want to see them. I don't want to listen to them. Just get it done. And we have clients that do that
Yeah.
too. It's like we've gotten over the hurdle. It's like record the video. And so you just have to get over it. It's just a step you have to get over. And here's the thing.
Push yourself into your comfort zone.
And it's not even, it's going to take a while to get to that.
It does. It
I mean,
does,
the comforts, and they may never get there.
Right.
They may never
But I
get
think they have to
comfortable.
remember they've got a voice that needs to be
And that's
heard.
the key.
Right? They've
Yeah.
got a voice that needs to be heard. There's a reason why people come back to them time and time again for their services, and it's because they're great at what they do. So take everything that you're providing, those experiences you're providing to your consumers, and that's your voice that
Yeah.
you speak out in your podcast or on your social media. Give them those pro tips that people look for, strive for, and want to know. The
Yeah.
things that your standard customer is asking you over and over again. That's your voice.
Yeah.
That's your voice,
And
right?
you can get, I mean, if you don't like how you look, then get some good lighting. you know, there's filters.
John's great at that. 'Cause
I mean,
you don't want to see this mug on a day-to-day.
And I mean, it's like sometimes I think we're so self-conscious, not knowing that people don't care how you look. Oprah Winfrey, for example, not a beautiful woman, but what an amazing influencer,
Yeah.
right?
Beautiful on the inside, for sure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's like, get over that. We all love you just how you are. And so that's okay. And then the next thing that they come up with is, I don't know what to shoot about. I don't know what to talk about.
That's right.
And so we have scripts for mortgage originators,
Yep.
and we give 4 scripts, so one every week. And you can use a teleprompter, and
Right.
you can record it, and we can edit it and do all that. Some people don't like those. So jot down some notes. I just always like to answer specific questions. One question, start with a hook. You know, what is somebody, going to want to learn? You don't start with your intro. You don't tell them who you are.
Right.
They don't really care, honestly. But they want to know, if I'm going to give you 30 seconds, 60 seconds of my time, what am I going to learn?
That's right.
So start with the hook. Tell them, hey, are you wondering how much it's going to take to get into a home these days? Why, yes, as a matter of fact, I
It's a
am.
beautiful drawing right there.
It's
Exactly.
like, okay, so here's the 3 things you know. And then you go into those, keep them simple. I like to do the power of 3. It's like, here's the 3 things you need to know. If you want to buy a house in 2023, what do you need to do? Number 1, don't quit your job.
That's a
big one.
good.
It's a big one, right?
It's a
Number
pretty good
2,
idea.
if you're going to put 10% down and you're buying a house that's $400,000, that means you're going to need to have, so much money and closing costs. So start saving money now. If you're looking at a year, you're going to need to save this much. And then the third thing is take care of your credit. Now, this is not anything that's like mind-blowing, right?
That's right.
But this is what people need to learn. So, answer specific questions and answer simple questions.
One of our best performing things that we've run on social is literally, do you want to know when the right time to buy a house is?
Yeah.
That was it. That's it. That's the question, and it's click below to learn more. And
There
I'm
you
telling
go.
you, we get more responses off of that than anything that we've produced. Why? Because it's the questions that people really want to
Right.
know. It's what they really want to know.
Yeah.
It's
And-
the simple stuff.
And do it in the repetition. You can do long form video. So obviously a podcast is a long form video. Anything
That's right.
over a minute is a long form. I always equate long form videos to like the billboard that you put up on the side of the road. It has the consistency. It's going to be out there longer. It's going to be seen longer.
That's right.
And you have that. Whereas what you put onto social media and you start with the clips, like you're
15
doing.
seconds,
15
yeah.
seconds. That's like the 30-second radio spot that you're running on the radio, hoping, during drive time.
That's right.
Think of it in terms of marketing. And you're right. If you're not doing video, you might as well just stop right now because you're not going to make it in this business.
The reason why I bring that up is because I have kids.
Yeah,
I have
that's
a
right.
12 and a 14-year-old, and I have my kids' friends come to me
Yeah.
and going, "Hey, we saw your podcast on Instagram," or "My mom and me watched your podcast on Facebook," or
See?
whatever. So my audience is now filtered down to my kids.
Yeah.
And they're going to come of age one day. They're
Yeah.
going to buy a house.
Well, and they're talking to their
Exactly.
parents,
and their
too.
friends are going to buy a house. And
Yeah.
I tell people all the time, as I speak to them, we're in the information age.
Right.
People consume their information or their media in all sorts of ways.
Right.
Some TV, some radio, some Facebook, Instagram,
Yeah.
TikTok, whatever form of engagement that you consume it, that's
Right.
how you consume it.
Yeah.
So you have to talk to them in whatever way they consume it.
Right.
I know we do a really good job of hitting all the platforms because we don't know where they're going to come from.
Oh.
I tell this story all the time. I had a client that we closed a deal on, and they refused to communicate with me other than Facebook Messenger, which is the oddest thing. I would text or email them, and I get a ping on Facebook Messenger on what is it, and
That's
it
their
was,
form of
spamming me.
communication.
it was for whatever reason. That's the way we communicated, and
Yeah.
that's how it was.
Yeah.
It was the oddest thing, and I thought it was so odd. But at the end of the day, what I realized is it's going to become more prevalent.
Yeah.
People want to communicate the way they want
That's
to
right.
communicate, not the way you want to communicate.
And they want to
So-
consume media the way they want to
Right.
consume media.
So you
right?
have to communicate on whatever platform they're digesting. So that's why
Yeah.
to our audience out there, someone like you, you gotta branch
Hit it
out.
all, yeah.
You gotta hit all the media forms.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to throw this out there real quick, too, because we do have to wrap this thing up here shortly. But, again, a lot of people go, well, what do I get started with, right?
Yeah.
Well, Ginger, and let's talk about that. So equipment-wise, right, if you're getting out there and you're trying to get started with a podcast, I know what we did, but they don't want to break the bank, right? What's a great way to get started shooting one of these things,
Well, I mean, I honestly have clients that film on their phone.
Yeah.
And I mean, you've got 4K on your phone. You just have to make sure it's, horizontal. There's a couple things. The sound is important. In the guide, the Agent Podcast, we have the Agent Podcast system and the Ella Podcast system. I have a technology list that
buy the
breaks
book.
it. Yeah, I mean, it breaks it into. So it's like, here's your beginner, and here's what you're going to need. And I mean, you're super advanced in what you're doing, and you don't have to get started that way at all. I mean, honestly, I did a podcast during COVID because they started with the term flatten the curve, right?
Okay.
And so I started a podcast, Flatten the Curve, Not the Spirit. It was all done through Zoom.
Yeah.
And we won 2 Tellys for that because it was the information. So
I started with
don't worry.
With a webcam and a Yeti mic,
Yeah.
right? That was it.
That's it.
$100, maybe 150.
150.
Yeah, and that was about it, right? And then a telephone call to Ginger, right?
Yeah.
But
JLab, you can get a very nice JLab mic that is an omnidirectional, which if you're going to have, like you've got yours, which are, the Sures are great, but they're directional. And so if you just want one mic, you want an omnidirectional, so people, multiple people sitting
right.
around. It's like $40. You can get a JLab, you get an HD camera, Logitech spend $100 on it, and
that's
you're
what we
good to
started
go.
with. Yeah. Well, guys, again, one thing that our good friend Steve Kyles always says is anything worth doing is worth doing badly. Just get started, right? So if you're out there wondering, hey, when do I let my voice be heard? It's today.
Yeah.
It's today. Don't waste any time. If you're out there listening to this podcast, you're going, man, I've been wanting to do this. Just do it. Just get out there and do it. And I promise you, you're going to be happy with the results. Good, bad, or indifferent, you'll get better over time. I know if you go back to podcast number 1 for us, it's nothing like what it is today. And that's a great thing, right? Are you happy we got started on this thing, David?
Yes, sir.
Absolutely. And I think there's a lot of followers out there that would be happy or would be unhappy if we hadn't started what we're doing, right? So, well, Ginger, as much as I would love to talk to you all day because you truly are an expert in this space, right? And you've got an amazing voice that people need to hear. What have we not asked you today that we should have asked you?
We've covered a lot. I think I would say the number one thing, just to reiterate everything that we've talked about, is just get started.
Just get started.
On one thing.
Yeah.
Just pick one thing,
That's
whether
right.
it's videos and you're going to put them onto social, whether it's a podcast.
That's right.
Pick one thing, take the action items, get started. And if there's anything that we can do to help, by all means, let us know.
Happy to fill in the blanks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, if folks out there want to find Ginger Bell and Edu
Or Bell.
Marketing, how do they find you?
Yeah, so my website is edumarketing.com. So it's educational marketing, edumarketing.com. Or you can just go to the planner if you want the agent podcast planner.
Yeah.
You can do that. You can go to
And you do.
agentpodcastsystem.com. Or you can find me on callgingerbell.com. So
I love it. You make it too easy.
I've been around for a while, so it's
whatever.
We'll give you a few different options. But here's
I'm
the
still
one thing.
challenging your age. I don't think that's that's not possible.
Yeah. But I mean, so here's the thing. Thank you guys for doing this. I mean, you are a voice to the industry, and you do it with professionalism, with passion, and I so appreciate all that you're doing. So thank you for that.
We appreciate you, and we appreciate you taking the time out of your insanely busy schedule to stop in here in Dallas from Northern Oregon and being on the show and just being an influence to us and what we do and a mentor for David and I and everything we're doing here. So thank you so much for that as well.
Awesome.
David, anything you'd like to say, Ginger, before we wrap up
No, we
today?
got really lucky that we got on her schedule and her
Blessed.
world tour. So,
Feeling blessed.
Yes.
Feeling blessed. So,
Yes.
Well, guys, we're your real estate success partner. I'm Devin Dubuque.
I'm David Wynn.
And if you want to check us out, you can find us at www.realestatesuccesspartner.com. Again, that's www.realestatesuccesspartner.com. You can also find us on iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, all the major listing platforms. Or if you want to watch the video, come check us out on YouTube, again, at the Real Estate Success Partner. And we love those 5-star reviews. And don't forget to subscribe. Until the next time, we'll see you then.
Bye, guys.